What if the parts of you you've been hiding in shame are actually a source of your power? My guest today is Laurel Ann Carter, a women's therapist turned integrative feminine embodiment mentor and soul writer. For nearly 2 decades, Laurel has supported women navigating eating disorders, anxiety, and grief, and her work has recently expanded to include archetypal wisdom and shame alchemy. Through her mentorship, Laurel helps women transform shame into sovereignty, reconnect with their truth, and live with greater pleasure, clarity, and self-devotion. In this conversation, she shares how shame quietly shapes a woman's relationship to her body and her sense of her worth, why the pursuit of perfection keeps women trapped in cycles of self-rejection, how grief and life's initiations can become gateways to deeper aliveness and pleasure, why the body positivity movement is only the beginning, not the destination, how women can begin to alchemize pain into power, and a whole lot more. Let's dive in. Welcome, Laurel Ann Carter, my dear friend. I thank you for being here, for joining me, for saying yes to this conversation, which I am thrilled about. So welcome.
Thank you. I feel so grateful to be here.
I would like to start asking you about your almost 2 decades of, can you believe?
No.
Working with women as a primarily women's therapist, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious what changes you've seen because you've seen now more than one generation, I assume. And I'm curious about what changes you've seen, how far we've come as women,
Mm-hmm.
and what we're still struggling with.
Yeah, it is kind of a wild thing to say almost 2 decades of anything in life, but working with women and, I've really probably in the past 10 years, really focused primarily on working with women. But being a therapist, also the larger majority of people who I have seen have been women, whether or not I was specifically saying that I support women, mothers, families, being in schools, being in like college universities, mental health centers. The majority of the clients who I've seen throughout those 2 decades have been women. And then really over the past 10 years, focusing pretty primarily on just supporting women and women's issues as, it would be termed. I could say so many things about what I've seen, like just the evolutions in women. And of course, it shifts according to population and environment and area of, the place that I'm serving. But since probably working with women in eating recovery has been an area of focus for some time, and seeing women across probably from like anywhere from 18 years old up to 75 years old. And it's been quite an honor in many ways to be able to see multiple generations of women struggle, like having this thread, having this connection of something that they all struggle with, but the way it manifests, of course, looks different according to the generation that you grew up. I would say consistent themes that show up in that location or in that population are themes of worthiness, are themes of I'm getting it wrong. Why, like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I just fill in the blank? There's pretty consistent comparisons that show up. There's self-minimization that shows up. And this shows up across age range as well. What I've been incredibly encouraged by and really kind of like gives me a lot of life energy and a lot of hope and faith for our tomorrow is younger generations of women who are really, I'm recognizing, like learning from older generations of women who are in their 40s and their 50s and their 60s who are starting to really step out of the story, step out of the construct, cultural construct, the narrative that has existed that is really being unearthed and revealed and analyzed from a wider lens. So these older women, 40s, 50s, 60s, who are now modeling, I feel, who have a platform to be able to share their truths in ways that when they were in their 20s, that wasn't really available because social media wasn't available. The older generations are an incredibly positive influence for younger generations. And so coming full circle to where I'm finding a lot of excitement and where I just have a lot of life energy move through me is seeing these younger women who are consciously choosing not to take the same path or subscribe to the same narratives that have kept a lot of women captive for many, many years.
And do you hold multi-generational groups, or is that something that you see in the future? Because we discussed this a little bit, but I certainly see the value in that. And it's something that I don't see happening so much. I mean, you mentioned obviously people can find older women as influences on social media, et cetera, and maybe within their own families. But so many of us are away from our families.
Yeah.
Is that something that you want to incorporate? Or, yeah, I really do too.
Yeah. Gosh, I mean, the value of story, the value of lived story.
Yeah.
I mean, through my own personal experience, I joined a women's circle. It was the 40th anniversary of Marion Woodman's book, The Pregnant Virgin. And a student of Marion Woodman's facilitated this group. This student, she lives in Canada. She's probably in her 50s or 60s now. And there were women, I was probably the youngest one in my early 40s. The oldest woman was probably in her early 80s, late 70s. And just hearing from the women, them reflecting upon their lifespan, the choices that they had and didn't have when they were my age and younger, it was incredibly influential for me in some pretty big decisions I was making in my life, to be witness to, in some ways, the sorrow that these older women felt for not feeling like they had choice with some things that they were experiencing when they were my age. And then on the inverse, the amount of life energy that is available within a younger generation is infectious. It's a beautiful opportunity to learn from one another, in our various life experiences.
One of my mentors is in her 70s, and she was also a student of Marion Woodman and a former dancer with Martha Graham.
Amazing.
So she has incredible stories of dancing in New York and then later studying with Marion Woodman. And she had the eating disorders and the body dysmorphia and all of it from being a dancer.
Yeah.
So heavily criticized.
Yeah.
She has phenomenal stories, though. Speaking of that, like the relationship with the body, you've primarily worked with women with eating disorders, and I wonder how shame is playing a part in what they're struggling with, how shame is playing a part in what all women are struggling with, and how that manifests in their relationships, specifically to their bodies and to food.
Gosh, shame, I feel, is the culprit of all challenges. And I speak for and with the woman, not to say that it doesn't exist for men, but we live in this culture, right? We live in this society where like our bodies are commodified. There's messaging everywhere that tells us that we need to fix something, change something, be better at something, be smaller at something, be bigger at something, be louder, be quieter. And so if like we're constantly told that perfection is the goal, but perfection is a moving target and we know that it doesn't exist. So there's also been like this infiltration, this message that says, if you can't fix this thing that is dissatisfying in your life, you can't change it, you can't influence it. What can you influence? You can influence the body. This is the one thing that we're told that we can control when everything else feels out of control. So we're told that perfection is the goal. So we're constantly chasing this moving target that doesn't exist. It creates this sense of immense dissatisfaction and a sense that we're not good enough. I'm not doing it right. It comes to then like, what can I control? My body. And then the body becomes the culprit. And then it becomes the thing that we direct our dissatisfaction towards. So when we're living in this vessel that we are constantly intellectually trying to change and manipulate to fit this ideal that is also a moving ideal, it can create this inner narrative, this like subconscious, unconscious monologue that it's not good enough. I am wrong. I am bad. And that's the story of shame. Like shame and guilt, I tell clients, there's a helpful distinction. Guilt can be like, I've done something wrong. And that energy of guilt can be really supportive to help us right the wrong. Shame is just, I am bad. I am wrong. And it doesn't really matter what I do. It's just, I am wrong. I'm a bad human. And it informs and creates the filter for everything that we move through in life.
Do you feel like there's something unique about American culture or society that's perpetuating that? Or I don't know if you've looked at how other cultures are susceptible to eating disorders or how prevalent it is in other countries.
You know, I think it's a great question. And I can really primarily just speak to, you know, the area in which I've spent all of my life, which is here in the United States. I mean, I've traveled internationally, but not extensively. But I do feel like the hyper focus on material things, this capitalistic world in which our country is rooted in, founded in, it creates this just another sense of dissatisfaction with what is. And that what is can be, it can be anything. It could be the relationship, the body, the job, the whatever, like always needing to do something different, make it bigger, make it louder. This hyper focus on influencer culture and the idea that success only means if you're known, if you have over X amount of followers, or, you know, the house or the car or the body. We have such a focus on external materialistic things in our culture that it perpetuates the story of dissatisfaction.
Do you feel like the body positivity movement here has moved the needle at all? Have you witnessed any shifts or any improvements since that became a thing, at least in America?
Yeah, reflecting on that, I mean, I do. Yes, I think that that's been, I think any time that it has a platform to bring awareness and attention to the relationship of the female with her body, I think that's making strides. That we're not just constantly subscribing unconsciously to this narrative that it's something to be fixed, that it's a problem to be fixed.
Yeah.
I feel like with anything, and the body positivity movement in particular, it's a door that we've opened. So that's wonderful. I see it as a mental subscription, like trying cognitively to, you know, try on a new mindset, to be thinking about it differently. It's a new narrative. It's a new dialogue. There's people talking about it. And so anytime we're having conversation about it from a lens of like body neutrality, body positivity, I think it's a win. Or where we need to, I feel like, transition the movement is into the body. So bringing it into a somatic experience of what does it feel like to experience body positivity, not just think it through like affirmations again and again and again, which are also helpful and supportive. But I think it's, you know, we've opened the window and we still have a ways to go. But it is, I have found it encouraging that there's more conversation being had widely.
That's what I wondered, because the representation seems to be there, or at least there is better representation. But I wondered if the lived experience has shifted.
Yeah.
And it sounds like at least somewhat. So at least we're starting the conversation. People are being represented. They see more people who look like they do. So
Yeah.
it's a start.
Yeah.
I think you've described yourself as a shame alchemist. And I'm so curious what that looks like in life. Like, what is shame alchemy? And how do you facilitate that? And what does it look like?
Yes. I mean, alchemy, it's shifting something, it's creating something, it's bringing magic into something, letting something evolve, take new form. I like the idea, I like the word alchemize versus transcend, because transcending, I feel, is like we're rising above, we're getting away from it. And alchemizing is being with it. And in the being with it, we're shifting our relationship with it. In this case, what is the it? It's the grief that we're all carrying in, this forced forgetting, the forgetting of who we truly are, the forgetting of our power. It's the allowance of sadness. It's the allowance of anger. It's allowance of rage. It's an allowance of the human experience to be felt in the body, to feel all of the things that we feel in living in a female body in our culture today, allowing that to be felt within the body and for it to be felt and experienced safely. Like, I feel like I probably should have even mentioned that first. It's the precursor to being able to experience any of the emotions that we experience, is to feel safe enough to allow them to move through. And then cultivating an environment first within safe relationship, that is number one within the therapeutic relationship, and really within all of our relationships, is safety. Can we create an environment of safety that allows us to feel, like truly feel our experience, and to express our emotions, to express the energy that moves through our body? In so many ways, I feel like alchemizing means relating to it differently, as opposed to fearing it or going along with the idea that like we need to be a certain way and like we handle things behind closed doors, and maybe not at all. We sweep it under the rug or suppress it, repress it, push it down, push it away. But knowing that it doesn't go anywhere. It still hangs out in the body. Finding ways to be able to express, to feel and express and release. And then that becomes power. That's where the alchemy happens. That's when we recognize that this can be transformed when I transform my relationship to it, when I no longer fear it. I give it permission to move through me and out of me. And then underneath that is our creativity. It's our voice. It's our power. It's our yes. It's our no. It's our painting. It's our singing. It's whatever it may be. But that's where our true essence comes through. Once we really give our bodies permission to express themselves in their fullness.
I totally agree. I was actually just completed an episode yesterday that is about the descent and about the archetypal process of the descent, and that we're not really held in that, supported in that. It's not really well understood and often pathologized.
Yes.
So these archetypes of Inanna, Persephone, etc., they were involuntarily and voluntarily women who went on a deep dive, a deep journey inward, downward, however you want to describe it, and came back with gifts. But that process wasn't like thwarted prematurely, which I think is what happens when we see a woman going through that who's in our life, that we may want to try to pull her out, rescue her from that. Because it's scary. I don't feel like we have a great place for women to land when they're going through that. We don't have great support.
Yeah.
Would you agree? I mean, I feel like people just feel like, oh, I need to go and see someone. I need to take something.
And to fix it.
Fix it.
Yes, absolutely. We've lost the art of rites of passage. There's so many amazing, beautiful rites of passage that a woman goes through in this life. Oh man, I get emotional just thinking about it. Like, yes, I mean, when a woman moves into menses, when, she gets married, when the first time she has sex, like there's so many rites of passage throughout life, and we've lost the ability to hold the discomfort that can come with it. That's, I mean, coming to your earlier question around how our culture has maybe perpetuated this relationship or disconnect perhaps from our body, or how shame has perpetuated through our culture. If something is uncomfortable, we equate it as to being wrong or bad. It's through the fire that we grow. It's through the fire that we evolve into the next truest version of ourselves. That's something that's been really beautiful about being able to sit with women day in and day out, is being able like to not run from their sadness, to not run from their rage, to hold it as sacred and to see them, and to allow the reframe of how beautiful and encouraging it is, like what it means on the other side of this rage, on the other side of this fear. Whenever we experience an intense amount of emotion or fear, anger, it means we're on to something. Something beautiful is on the other side of rage, beautiful on the other side of resistance, any discomfort that we feel. There's a gem on the other side of it to bring back the ability to sit with one another through our pain.
And it sounds like that's what you're moving into as well, sort of transitioning from exclusively or more exclusively a focus on the therapy work, but into more of a mentorship program. And I'm so thrilled you're doing that because for a lot of reasons. But one of them is, and I chose that title mentor as well because there's something about when you go to see someone who has certain credentials that there's some feeling about it that there's a hierarchy that this person is, as you say, either going to fix it for me or that they have the answers or, you know what I mean? That feeling of hierarchy.
Yeah.
Whereas a mentor to me feels like someone who is walking a path with me. Perhaps they're just, one step ahead.
Yeah.
But it's a partnership. It's like Ram Dass said, we're walking each other home. It feels more like that.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that was what influenced you or one of the influences in making this transition that you are in your career.
Absolutely. Yeah, as you say that, it's funny. I was just putting some videos together over the past few days describing why I'm choosing to move into more of a mentorship model and away from just one-on-one psychotherapy. And that is one of the reasons, absolutely, is the hierarchical framework in which I don't really subscribe to. And I hold the therapeutic space as incredibly sacred. And I feel like the large majority of my clients would say that I partner with them. And I'm actually pretty quick to say that in the first session that I really try to steer clear of this power differential. However, it still exists by way of title. It still exists by way of the nature of psychotherapy. I'm not, self-disclosure is not really a part of it. My clients don't really know anything about me, and that's okay in that model, in that framework. But recognizing more and more this, where I'm transitioning into is the remembrance of the sacred circle. In the book, The Way of the Rose, they talk about when we move from the sacred circle to like pulpit and pew, where as opposed to seeing one another in circles, seeing each other eye to eye, recognizing that there's nobody above, nobody below, we're here together as community. In some ways, we gave our power away unknowingly in that space. It's just by nature of the literal dynamic that you step into. In addition to that, like our backs are to one another. So we are all focusing on one human in the pulpit and pew model. And that doesn't hold the mirror to our own wisdom. It doesn't hold up the mirror to, and the mirror to the value of our own story. So say in the most humble of ways, I feel like the last number of years I've gone through some really magnificent and harrowing initiations, really painful initiations, all of which have informed so much of how I support and sit with and be with women. I feel like the ability to share the teachings, the lessons that came from those is incredibly important. That's like bringing the relationship into it in a deeper way. In addition, the mentorship model feels like it offers a structure in a different sort of way. It's a model that I kind of envision it like the banks of the river that allow the river to flow. Like the banks of the river in some ways is the masculine holding and the river is the feminine. She knows what to do when she is held safely by the banks of the river, like the rib cage holding the heart. When the heart knows that she's safe, she can love fully, she can express fully. So the mentorship model and the framework in which, I've put together with these different kind of programs, it's the framework. It's the structure and the framework. We have an idea of where we're going, but it's their own personal experience that takes them down the river. And the program is the holding for it.
It sounds like a wonderful departure from textbook clinical therapy models, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're talking about what is seeing the body as sacred and allowing for individual expression, allowing for a woman to move through her own process. What will that look like to you in terms of the groups that you hold and the mentorship program?
Yeah, so we bring in archetypal wisdom. We bring in stories of women throughout history that we can see ourselves in. So as opposed to me being the professional that offers these things, it's me offering the teachings from women throughout history. And then those who are a part of this experience, they see themselves within the story and they get to choose what fits. In addition, we deeply acknowledge the 1,000-year-old history of the eraser of women. We acknowledge the witch wound. We acknowledge in a deep somatic way that women honoring their truth was literally life-threatening not very many years ago on the land that we walk on today. I feel like if we're not acknowledging that in all care, specifically in the area that I've been in with eating disorders and eating recovery, in some ways we're asking ourselves to dissociate, just put that away and continue with our adaptive coping strategies to just deal with the life in which and the culture in which we live in. But if we're not really looking at acknowledging what lives in our DNA from thousands of years ago, then we're like a car with one headlight. So it's acknowledging those pieces. It's bringing in other models. It's bringing in women throughout history, the stories, the teachings that they have moved through, and allowing that to support our own evolution.
So, will you be working with the larger group of women, with women who struggle with self worth? Maybe not through the manifestation of eating disorders, but it sounds like you're going to be expanding the group with whom you're working.
Yeah.
So, you and I have talked a little bit, just briefly, about your personal experience of loss over the last year. And I wonder if you would like to just discuss how that's informed where you are now and maybe even the change that you're making in your career and what you're offering, where that's brought you and just what that meant for you.
Yeah, we're moving through death all of the time. Things are always dying and being rebirthed constantly. When we're met with literal physical death, gosh, I don't want to compare it per se to loss of a relationship, like if you get divorced, but it does make time stand still in a different way. It certainly makes time stand still. To be able to push pause on the day-to-day, to be able to see it as the gift that it really is, the death of somebody that you care about, to allow the death to be a gift, to wake you up that much more fully to the preciousness of this life. Oh my gosh, that it can so quickly go away, so quickly, so unexpectedly go away. It just can flood you. If we allow it, it can flood you into a space of aliveness.
Yeah. In contrast to what sometimes happens, which is to make people very cynical or nihilistic. My son just lost a friend of his who was 21 just last week.
Oh, Erin.
And so it's been so difficult to try to make any sort of sense out of that.
Yeah.
One of my practices in meditation since I was 18 has been on the brevity and the preciousness of this life.
Yeah.
And that it can be taken away so quickly.
Yeah.
And for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
I think it can certainly be an inspiration to treasure your loved ones, to treasure the beauty of life, to find your purpose and to recommit to it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that's the aspirational takeaway when we lose someone, right?
Yeah.
That it wasn't in vain.
Right.
I also think you can arrive at the paradox of grief, pain, and pleasure
Yeah.
and joy on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if, I don't know how long it's been since your loss, but I wonder if you've also arrived at that in a more tangible way, like in your body.
Mm-hmm.
If you can feel that those are so related. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. Pain and pleasure come from the same place. The more we allow the experience of pain, the greater the allowance and experience of pleasure. I mean, to allow grief, which I mean, I know like it's a scary place to be. Like, I'll get swept away in it. I'll never come back if I like give myself to grief, if I give way to this flood that, this incredible emotion, this incredible experience, not just one emotion that grief is, but to allow yourself to be completely pummeled by grief, to let it break you open. It can be such a instigator of this heart opening, expansive experience to the true fullness of this life, letting pain break you open and to live. I mean, what is this life except to meet it with a full heart? Like, what a gift to be woken up so deeply that you can taste the preciousness of it in one like 24-hour period, how quickly it can shift you, shift your molecule, shift your mindset, shift your heart when it's safe enough to feel grief.
That's been my experience too. That the gift in either one of those is commensurate with your willingness to surrender into both.
Yes.
And I love the term like being taken, because we can be taken into Hades, into the depths of grief,
Mm-hmm.
of suffering, of a hellish life experience.
Mm-hmm.
But we can also be taken into rapture and bliss.
Yes.
And they both require a letting go,
Yes.
release,
Yes.
surrender. And that is feminine.
On that word rapture, just to offer a brief snippet, I mean, another loss, or like I mentioned these different initiations over the past few years. I chose to separate from my husband, and it's very loving. It's very kind. I love him so deeply, and really our love has just evolved. It's just an amorphous love story. But through that experience, I met so many parts of myself that I didn't know existed except through honoring this truth that was incredibly challenging to honor, to really own, and then to really to verbalize and bring it to fruition. Like meeting the mother wound, meeting the father wound, meeting the sister wound, meeting so many abandonment wounds, so much fear about the future. And through this experience, it felt like a descent of Inanna, of like so many parts of me having to be shed and looked at, and like just feet to the fire descent. And I journaled a ton, just felt like my higher self was like really channeling through during this experience. And what came through once was the word rapture, just rapture over and over and over again. And I had this former association with rapture growing up in a religious household. Rapture to me, the immediate association was like fire, destruction, brimstone, pretty scary. And so I'm like, why is this coming through? Why is this coming through? Why is this coming through? And then I went and looked up the definition of rapture. I'm like, whoa, right. This pleasure, this ecstasy, this releasing, this experience of deep ecstatic joy that is available on the other side of shedding so many parts of us that we've carried unknowingly. But yeah, rapture, the word rapture has a sweet place in my heart.
And has your grief refined or changed how you work with women, how you are advising them? Are you encouraging them more to allow that descent to happen, having experienced it yourself?
Absolutely. And similar to these rites of passage that we mentioned, that, we've missed this holding of these precious times in life. And the shedding has really allowed a deeper, fuller, more intimate capacity at being present, Like there's a visceral recognition, and you can feel it. It's this felt sense, tangible in the air feeling of when we're really unafraid of somebody's fear, unafraid of somebody's dissent, and being able to offer really just that state of presence that like this is a beautiful unfolding.
I have noticed my tolerance for superficial interaction, though, has decreased. I really like and enjoy and get a lot from going deep and having heart to heart conversations.
Yeah.
It's almost like, maybe because of the ephemeral nature of life, or maybe just as I mature, I'm not interested in talking about gossip or anything like that anymore.
Mm-mm.
Have you found that to change in your life? Just, I want to talk with you like from our hearts, and I want to know you. And I don't know, I just don't have time
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
the superficial.
Absolutely. I don't know how to do superficial. I used to say it was like just the scorpion in me that I don't know. Like I end up just, yeah, it's like small talk in like concert settings or bar settings or whatnot. I just like unintentionally either end up talking shit and I don't, or like making somebody feel bad and I don't mean to, or I'm dropping in about like their mother who passed away a year ago. But very similarly, I feel like one of the gifts of letting grief really take you is that anything that is out of resonance thereafter, it's almost like it's toxic. I can feel it differently. And not to say that surface level conversation is toxic, but really the state of resonance has become almost like there's this hyper sensitivity to what is in alignment and what is not in alignment. And things like gossip or complaining. And I mean, not to say that there's not a place for complaining, like we all need it and love a good girl banter when we're, just like need to talk some shit about things. But there's a deeper sense of connection and juiciness that is available that I'm just not really interested in anything else.
And so I like to talk about this self-abandonment that happens, which I think ties into accommodating conversations like that, or accommodating relationships that
Totally.
are anything less than resonant, anything less than connecting with someone in a coherent way, a loving way. I wonder if you'd walk me through the ways in which we as women self-abandon and call that love, or believe that that's love. How does that play out in relationships, and what have you seen? I mean, maybe your own experiences or what you've seen in other women.
Yeah, gosh, I like want to unwind, like there's always like another layer underneath that layer and then underneath that layer. And if in this moment, what really comes up for me is like this self-abandonment can come from this forgetting our worth, forgetting our value, because then that can lead to this fear of not being good enough, fear of being left, fear of not being chosen, or the influence of comparison, the people pleasing. When we come from this place of lack of rootedness in our own essence, our own sense of self, capital S, it's like we can enter into these conversations, dialogues, relationships untethered. And when we're untethered to the truth of who we are, it can be really easy to get swept away in what is available, what is expressing interest towards us. Or if, subscribing to the idea that like, I need to be chosen. I mean, like, isn't that a huge part of our experience as a woman, that our worth is being chosen? And the idea of not being chosen, like if I set a boundary, if I say no to something that feels uncomfortable, then I might not be chosen. Or, going against our intuitive, like what truly feels right for us, that can lead to fear of hurting somebody's feelings. And like, God forbid, we hurt somebody's feelings by honoring our truth. It feels like a part of it also is this orientation to the external versus the internal, external authority versus internal authority. In Eating Recovery, we talk like the external authority of the scale, the number on a scale, the steps on your watch, the hours that you're on a treadmill, the number the size of your clothing. I mean, there's so many external authorities that dictate how we move in life can lead like to self-abandonment as opposed to operating from the inner authority, operating from our inner knowing and what feels right for us.
I have heard it described as seeking an external barometer of your worth, rather than choosing yourself,
Yeah.
constantly searching for, validation or a number of validation or the feedback we're getting
Yeah.
as validation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, an external barometer. Or also a soul writer.
Mm.
And I had not heard this term before, but I'm so intrigued. And I would love to hear more about that, as well as a piece that you wrote called This Woman's Anthem Song, how that came to you, what that is all about. I'd love to hear more about that.
You know, I don't know if I've heard the term soul writer either, but it just came up for me a number of months ago. I'm like, well, that's kind of what I do. That's what I do, write from and for the soul. It's been, I mean, I always feel, I've felt since I was little that writing was a way, what spirit wanted me to do, to write, and have been in various forms, but been focusing more intentionally on it over the past couple of years. I mean, in so many ways, it's like this, it's an opportunity to give her voice in a world that really doesn't offer a lot of space for her to express herself. And through writing, it's been like my own path to liberation. And I won't say that I'm there totally to liberation, but in so many ways, in comparison to 5 years ago, it's always evolving. But writing has been the conduit to attune to the truth of my soul story, where I really recognize that my soul does not abide by construct. She doesn't give a shit about the constructs of this world. She doesn't get it. She doesn't know how to operate within it. And through my writing, it's allowed me to recognize the truth of that experience and then move into an embodied experience of that, a lived experience of that. So this piece, this woman's anthem song, really it came through me in, I do this writing group called Guts with Kelly Burns. Shout out Kelly Burns. She's incredible. She's an incredible writer and just woman, human on the planet doing incredible, incredible work. And she runs an embodied writing course. And the theme of that particular day was bringing spellcraft into your writing. So writing yourself into a future that doesn't exist yet.
Juicy.
So juicy. So juicy. And so we wove this theme into an embodied yoga class and did ceremony around it. And then, went to our own respective places within her home to write whatever that means, whatever comes through you. And this piece, this woman's anthem song, which I didn't bring it, I mean, I have it, I could access it, but it's, elsewhere. It became an anthem where I wrote in first person, I wrote in present moment. I said, like spellcraft story is to write yourself into a future that doesn't exist yet. This future, however, does. And ultimately expressed the ways in which pleasure and peace go together. They are my and our birthright. Wrote about the freedom that exists within circles of women, our ability to commune with the wild woman, our ability to create our spaces however we want to create them. In this particular piece, I said, I commune with the wild woman. We paint vulvas on our living room walls, lick our fingers as we eat like birds for dinner. But just, it was this expression of the deliciousness of being an unencumbered woman. It was such a beautiful experience to write it, to let it flow through me, to share it, to be witnessed with other women. And then I read it at an open poetry mic night at the Neighbor, and it was just so sweet. So sweet to have women come up afterwards and just, you speak my language. I'm so grateful for, and that's it, to give voice, to be able to give permission for this soul's voice to come out. And then it's a mirror and an offering. It is the prayer for other women to do the same.
And it sounds like it holds a vision that we can all relate to, of reaching a point of not just acceptance, but reverence for and relishing being a woman. There's something that I relate to in the goddess Tara. I've been really close to since I was 18, and I've translated a number of her prayers from the Tibetan. She always said that she would always return as a woman in every lifetime. And I feel that too. I'm so grateful for men and the masculine energy, but I so relish and enjoy being a woman. And I wish that for every woman, that they could find that enjoyment, the pleasure, the beauty of being a woman.
Absolutely.
I wish that was available to every woman.
Yeah.
It sounds like your piece spoke to that.
Yes.
Why is pleasure still in 2026 such rebellious, irreverent sensation, act, way of life for women still?
Absolutely. Rooted in the eraser of women thousands of years ago, the main text that informs the large majority of religion in our culture took women out of it. And then the women that were a part of it, they are either saints and holy virgins or they're whores. There weren't options. Like, where's the gray space? This going off track a little bit, but what's happening in our nation right now, to me, is actually really encouraging. It's tragic and crazy, but whenever something gets really, really loud and angry and big and bigger, to me, it just means that like something's fearful of dying. The patriarchy is fearful of dying. So that's why it's getting as rageful and crazy as it is, coming up out of the surface in a louder way. And that to me also means that the feminine is rising. Her strength is returning or resurfacing. I don't think it's never gone away. But as she rises, her power returns. And pleasure is the doorway to our power. Mary Magdalene, like, she was channeling Yeshua's words. Other men who were around were like, why isn't this happening for me? But it was through her body, of her body, that she was receiving these incredibly powerful information. A woman in experiencing her pleasure is a woman stepping back into her power, remembering her power. There's been a lot of conditioning to shame a woman in her power. Again, as mentioned earlier, we've been killed for being in our power. We've been killed for honoring our sexuality. The cultural narrative is that if a woman yearns for sex, if she has multiple partners, then she is a whore, and a whore is cast out of society. We have this tribal nature within us. We are tribes people. If we don't have a community, then that lives in our bodies. If we don't have a community, that basically equals death. There's so many stories interwoven that inform the fear of the female in her power.
And what does that look like to you? Like, if you are envisioning a woman fully stepping into her power, fully experiencing all of the layers of pleasure of her body, mind, spirit, energy, what does that look like to you?
Yeah.
How is that embodied? How does that woman walk through the world?
First response is shoulders back. It's like, it's simple, but also like shoulders back, heart forward. Also, what I love about that question is that the beauty of the female is that it's so uniquely theirs. It can look so different according to what a woman's truth is. And when there's an allowance of her arrows, of her life energy to be moving through her. So for one woman, an allowance of her truth, permission to just be fully in her full and embodied self, maybe that is being in the home, and that's being with her children, and that's cooking, and that's like keeping house. And that's amazing and beautiful and powerful if that's her truth and it and it lights her up. It could be a woman who's a CEO in New York City and wearing high heels, like in between, like walking through skyscrapers. A woman who gives herself permission for her yes, gives herself permission for her no, to allow her life energy, her arrows to be moving through her unencumbered, unashamed, unapologetic. It's not hurtful. If a woman is showing up in her power, if it's hurtful, that's very often about the other person and what it may trigger within them to see a woman in her power, to see a woman in her true, like, pleasured, sensual self.
And I feel like those projections that come are so often from other women, unfortunately,
Yes.
who are not there yet.
Yes.
And that it's so threatening to them somehow.
Yes.
I hope that we move beyond that, I really look forward to a day where we can all celebrate one another in our full capacity, in our full
Absolutely.
pleasure, in our full feminine embodiment,
Yes.
in our full lusciousness,
Yes. Yes.
And because biologically, we're not really in so much competition as we used to be, like fighting for the man or whatever, I'm hopeful that we're on that path and that we'll get there.
Me too.
What would you most love for women listening to know about resourcing their joy, finding their joy, living in more joy?
That it's found in the little moments. I feel like we can be under the guise that, like, joy is out there somewhere once I get to fill in the blank.
Once Superman arrives,
Once he arrives, once the number on the scale fits, once I make it to France, once whatever, fill in the blank, the story goes on and on and on, that it's outside of you.
and in the future,
And in the future, it's tomorrow. Yeah.
that there are contingencies.
Right.
There.
Yeah. This precious body that we have been so blessed to be living inside of, like, our soul landed in the body that we're given, and that our body, we can touch things, we can smell things, we can hear things. I can see your smile. I can see your soul through your eyes. I can experience orgasm. I can experience sadness and pain and cry and tears, and the incredible capacity that we have to experience this life is of and through this body. Joy is of and through this body. It's so available.
I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really thrilled for things that are on the horizon for you and what you're bringing, what you're sharing, what you're offering, and in the new way that you're doing that. It just feels so much more whole. It feels like you're going to be offering this to so many more people. And I hope that that's a worldwide, global offering. I look forward to collaborating with you. And I've known you for about 8 years now. We started out as Kundalini teachers.
Yeah.
I've witnessed you really showing up in so many different spaces as a student. And to now see you in the mentor role as well. I know you're always going to be a student,
Sure.
but showing up in the mentor role and for a larger audience is really gratifying, really exciting for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thank you for that. I thank you on behalf of everyone who's going to encounter you and benefit from your medicine. So thank you so much.
Erin, thank you. Yeah, it's been such a gift, and be witness to you and your journey over 8 years as well. Like,
Thank
this
you.
deeper and deeper embodiment.
Is there anything else that's wanting to be spoken about?
One thing that came up 2 topics ago in the competition with women. One, just to further reiterate what you said, that it feels like that is shifting, and the awareness to recognize that that's been intentional as well, to pit women against one another. Because, man, women coming together, that's a next level power. And how rooted that is in the sister wound that also deserves love, space, kindness, gentleness to be able to alchemize in its own way, and how liberating that can be when we release the competition and come into connection with one another as sisters on this planet, like we need one another. We need to see one another, hold one another, remind one another of who we are, of our power, of our truth, of our light, of our capacity. We need one another to be lanterns outside of competition. So I just wanted to follow up on that piece.
Absolutely. Yeah, this whole notion of independence has not served us whatsoever, and
No.
we are so very much interdependent. I think of women in circles thousands of years ago
Yeah.
and how those were broken up and how the places where those circles were held have been built upon,
Yeah.
by the church and etc. Coming back into circle, though, is really where the magic's going to happen.
Yeah. It's sacred. And we're chartering that as women in the world. We're bringing the sacred back to this earth.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Erin.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it.